All aboard the Keaton Wagler hype train.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for joining us each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where we're just 2 days away. That's right, 2 days away from the opening kickoff of the new football season. If you're as excited as I am, make sure you hit the like button on this video, and I want to hear some score predictions. I'm going to do my score predictions probably sometime Thursday. I'll release that episode Thursday or Friday. I want to know what you guys think and how hyped you guys are. Also, speaking of the word hyped, there's a lot of hype around the Illini freshman, Keaton Wagler. And so today I want to spend some time talking about a guy who quickly went from just a nice foundational future piece of Illini basketball to somebody who now might be one of the biggest swing factors of this entire upcoming season. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm talking about freshman Keaton Wagler. If you've been paying attention to the buzz coming out of Champaign these past few weeks, you know exactly what I mean. And I just got off the phone with a couple of people. The hype is legitimate. The question I have, though, is just how real is all this? And what does that mean for the Illini, especially because of the injury to Ty Rodgers, which left our backcourt much thinner than expected? First, let's rewind and recap a little bit. Keaton wasn't one of those five-star, everybody in the country is after type of recruits. In fact, he was considered pretty under the radar and kind of underwhelming by a lot of Illini fans for that 2025 class. He didn't live on the shoe circuit. He didn't have the same exposures that a lot of other blue blood programs seem to focus on. And for a while, it looked like mid-majors were going to be his best option. But then Illinois saw something, and they weren't the only one. By the end of his career at Shawnee Mission Northwest in Kansas, he had led them to back-to-back titles, and he was the Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year, scoring 18 and a half points per game during his senior season while shooting 45% from three-point land. Again, with those type of numbers, you're not flying under the radar anymore. Illinois legitimately had to beat out schools like Minnesota just to get him on campus, and now it looks like they might have found an absolute steal. So what inspired this? The Athletic released 6 freshmen to watch in an article sometime. They released it on Wednesday morning, depending on when you're listening to this. And they ran a feature on Wagler. They framed him as, quote, one of the best under-the-radar recruits in the 2025 class. What stood out to me, though, was how Brad Underwood himself handled it. He tried to temper the narrative, but at the same time, he ended up saying some of the most glowing things we've ever heard him say about a true freshman. He said, in his words, without wanting to place excessive pressure on him, Wagler has perhaps exceeded our expectations. He's one of the best freshman players we've had in terms of decision-making. I literally got off communication this morning with someone who said basically exactly that. He told me word for word that Keaton's ability to be ready now is one of the biggest surprises of the entire Illini staff and the workouts this summer. So that's nothing but fantastic news for the Illini basketball team and Illini fans. Think about that. Brad Underwood is the coach who had some really talented guards come through, and yet he's putting Wagler in that sort of conversation. Brad also raved about his ability to navigate screens and make decisions, which is not necessarily a skill you expect from a kid straight out of high school. That's what you get from a guy his second, third year running the offense in the Big Ten. Physically, he also seems to be a little ahead of schedule. 6'6" with a great frame, and the staff wanted to bulk him up. Since arriving, he's put on, I've heard, anywhere from 12 to 15 pounds. That tells you he's locked in on the development already. And once again, thank you, Fletch. Fletch is a cheat code. Let's talk a little bit about the locker room buzz, because it's not just the coaches that have been hyping Keaton up. His teammates are co-signing as well. Senior guard Kylan Boswell flat out said, Keaton surprised me completely. I feel like he's going to be way more impactful than most people think. He's cold. Just flat out. He's really, really good. Now, he said that about a month ago when the players met with media. But again, those aren't necessarily the kind of throwaway compliments that you just give to a freshman just to make them feel welcome. That's a veteran of the team, one of the captains of the team saying, yeah, this guy can play. He's going to help us. And remember, this is a locker room that has a pretty high standard. They've been competing for Big Ten titles. They had Kasparas Yakushonis and Will Riley as wings and guards last year. They've been playing in the NCAA tournament. If Wagler's already earning this kind of respect, I think this is a huge deal. Local outlets like the Champagne Room even went so far as to say he's more polished than expected, and that's just the adjustment period has been shorter than anybody thought, basically confirming what I heard just this very morning. For a program that suddenly looked thin in the backcourt with Ty's injury, well, now this is what you want to hear of a kid like Keaton stepping up. Because we know here's where it gets really important. Illinois is going to need a guy like Keaton to step up. With Ty's injury, depth in the backcourt is genuinely a concern. I'm not worried about the front court. We have bodies we can throw in the front court. But when it comes to the back court, you have Mahalo, you have Kylan, and then what? And that's where the concern comes in. You've got Boswell and experienced guys, but after that, the rotation just gets a little tight. And the thing is, Keaton doesn't have to be a 30-minute-a-night type of guy right out of the gate. But if he can give you steady bench minutes, knock down some shots, maybe just be respectable defending at the Big Ten level, not turn the ball over, well, that's a huge, massive positive check mark for the Illini. It's one thing to be a nice surprise in summer workouts, though. It's another to show up in Madison or Mackey Arena in January and hold your own. And that's the jump that obviously Illinois is going to hope that Waggler can make. But based on what people have been watching so far at these summer sessions, he might actually be ready sooner rather than later. And I'll be honest, if he really is as good as people are suggesting, then here I am again. Quite honestly, possibly raising the ceiling of this Illinois team one more time. Because depth at guard, I've talked about this before, is one of my biggest concerns for this upcoming season. And maybe, just maybe, Waggler is the solution for that concern. Let's break down the strengths a little bit more about Waggler, just if you're not sure about his skill set. Shooting, as I mentioned, 45% from three in high school, 83% from the line. Again, that kind of dictates that he's a pure good shooter. Okay, this wasn't a fluke. Playmaking, his vision and IQ are consistently praised, and that's not something you can fake. Size, versatility, I mentioned 6'6", and he can guard multiple spots, just like Brad Underwood always likes. He can play on or off the ball, and he gives Brad lineup flexibility with his height. Having said that, 6'6", he still needs to be a little bit more physical, because I do have concerns that the Big Ten is going to test him a bit. Defensively, he's going to have to learn how to survive on his own against grown men who have been in the league for 3 or 4 years, and that's going to take some consistency. Hopefully, it's not just flashes that he shows, but by the end of the season, he's able to prove himself minutes for night after night. That's going to be the real challenge. But overall, to wrap this up, the hype around Keaton Wagler isn't just fan chatter. It's been driven by coaches, teammates, national outlets, and quite honestly, my source in the program, who are all saying the same thing. This kid can really play. And with Illinois needing more backcourt depth after Ty's injury, I think Waggler is suddenly in a position to really swing the season in a positive direction for this Illinois basketball team. If he lives up to even half of the praise we're hearing right now, Illinois might have landed a freshman who can change the trajectory of the season. And if he lives up to all of it, we could be talking about Keaton as not just a rotational piece, but as one of the breakout freshmen in the entire Big Ten. And keep in mind, Illini fans in general have not been happy. They weren't exactly too happy with the Keaton Wagler and Brandon Lee signings last year. And this year, they're struggling to accept that we are going after, again, not necessarily perceived top tier guys. But if Keaton can show that the staff might just have an eye for talent when it comes to guys ranked in the hundreds, well, maybe Illini fans will be a little bit more patient. So let's just keep an eye on him, because if he's ready now, Illinois basketball is in a much stronger position than anybody thought a month ago. You let me know your thoughts on Keaton Wagler. Do you think that the hype is worth it? I'm curious. Most people can't name all the financial accounts on or what they're even worth, whether it's 401k properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, find out exactly what you're spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Again, I've referenced this before. I'm a personal user of Monarch Money. Once I saw how much money my family's been spending on food outside the home, I realized that we needed to make some adjustments. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits whatever kind of bets I'm in the mood for, whether I want to bet a first quarter, whether I want to bet a money line, whatever it is. I can bet the game before or even during live. It's quick, easy, and it's the best way to get a little more energy when I have to watch the random Browns versus Lions game. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And welcome back to Locked On Illini, your daily podcast covering Illinois athletics with insight, analysis that you're not going to get anywhere else. In our Discord, there's been a lot of talk about the Illini wide receivers room. By the way, you can find the Talk Illini Discord link should be in the description. Please join us. Illini fans talking all day, every day. Some who claim to have sources watching these summer sessions. And so there seems to be some concern about the wide receiver room. And I'll be honest, when I watched Barry Lunny Jr. and Brett Bielema this past week, at their press conferences, I don't know necessarily if I'm as confident as I was in the position group a little while ago. So let's set the stage first. Obviously, I don't need to tell you Illinois coming off a Citrus Bowl win, ranked number 12 heading into this fall. And the expectations for this season are huge. Luke is returning at quarterback. The offensive line has experience. The defense should, again, be one of the best defenses in the country. But when you zoom in on that passing attack, you can't ignore the giant hole left by the departures of Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin. Between just those two guys, Illinois is replacing nearly 71% of its receptions, almost 73% of its yards, and a staggering 86% of its touchdowns from last season. Let that sink in. That's not a hole, that's a crater. And the big question is, who's going to step up and fill it? Now, as I mentioned during these interviews, if you listen to the coaches, they try to tell you that they're optimistic. Brett Bielema himself was quick to single out Colin Dixon and Hank Beatty as guys who've been consistent all camp long. He said, there's no doubt in my mind that Colin Dixon and Hank Beatty are really at a different level. Barry Lunny Jr., the offensive coordinator, echoed that. And look, I want to believe them. I do think Dixon and Beatty are very good players who might have had good camps. But let's be real. Dixon and Beatty are good players, and hopefully they can be very good players. But are they the type of players that are going to eventually elevate to the level of a Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin? Elevate to the point where they're going to fear, or at least cause fear, in Big Ten secondaries? Are they the kind of players that defensive coordinators are going to lose sleep over? That's kind of the question here. Let's talk Hank Beatty first. Slot specialist, Mr. Reliable. Staff loves his ability to move the chains, catch tough balls over the middle. He's a guy you can trust on 3rd and 5. But historically, he hasn't been a big play threat. The vertical option that tilts the field, he's not exactly that. Colin Dixon is everyone's seemingly the guy who's going to take over. And, he's reliable, and I thought he played really well last season. But an offense that lost Bryant's ability to high point balls and stretch defenses, is Colin capable enough to strike fear in the heart of a defense, and corners in particular? The other guy that, was arguably the biggest addition, Hudson Clement, the transfer from West Virginia. Again, I like Clement a lot, and I know that Mountaineer fans are very upset that they let him go, or he decided to move on. So I am a little bit more optimistic about him. He had 51 catches, 741 yards, 5 touchdowns last year in the Big 12. That's not nothing. And Barry Lane Jr. went as far as to say, we're seeing that guy come to life for us. But here's the catch. Hudson came here late. He was slowed very early with an injury, and only recently have we started to hear about the progress that he's making and whether he's looking comfortable. So the fact that we're asking him to kind of take on such a big savior type of role before he's even played a down in the orange and blue, I feel like that's kind of a dangerous place to be. And then you have Malik Elzy, the guy who all Illinois fans want to believe in. He's a former 4-star recruit. He's got the size, 6'3". He's got the ball skills, and the work breakout candidate has been thrown around all offseason. But he also missed time in camp with hamstring injury. Yes, he's back, but he's expected to start at the X, right? We've all seen the story before. Hamstrings are tricky. One bad pull, and suddenly one of your top wide receivers is sidelined, which is a scary thought when the season hinges on developing chemistry earlier. I listened to a Jeremy Warner podcast earlier today, and I wish he used more positive words when it came to Malik Elzy. It was more so along the lines of he seems to be catching up, whereas opposed to what I wanted to hear was something like, this guy looks like he's ready for the big show. When you talk about wide receiver depth, sure, you still have Alexander Kapka-Jones, a senior who blocks well and who may be playing a bigger role than I originally thought. You have my personal flag player this year, Justin Bowick, who has, again, supposedly improved. Freshman Braden Trimble, who probably isn't ready for major Big Ten snaps this year, but I do think you're going to get to see him in at least 4 games because that's what's allowed before you can still redshirt a player. These are fine pieces, but if we're being honest, I'm now having concern that I haven't heard the positive feedback that I heard last year when it came to a guy like Pat Bryant. And we knew Zachary Franklin coming into last year was the most accomplished, at least statistically, wide receiver in all of college football. Hudson Clement is accomplished, but not to that level. He's not that established. So the question is, if Dixon, Beatty, Clement, or Elzy don't hit, are we really trusting a guy like Kapka-Jones or Bowick to carry the passing game? Even that feels kind of like a reach. And let's talk about what Luke said himself during camp. He mentioned he's looking for an alpha receiver. An alpha. Think about what that word means. A go-to guy, a Pat Bryant type, somebody you can throw it up to on 3rd and 12 and feel good about your odds. Right now, the fact that Altmaier is still talking about wanting to find that guy tells me one thing. They might not have him yet. And here's my biggest concern. When you go up against some of these tough defenses, well, it's not enough to have 4 or 5 guys who are just solid or pretty good. You're going to need 1 or 2 difference makers. You need someone who can win a one-on-one against a future NFL caliber corner. And right now, from what we've seen and read, Illinois wide receiver room has a lot of potential, but just not a lot of proof. But I'm not saying the group can't get there. Elzy absolutely can become that dude. Clement can carry over his Big 12 production and hopefully in this system even surpass it. I do think Hank Beatty is going to continue to make clutch plays. And Dixon, again, if he lives up to the hype that he's been getting all offseason long, he very well could be that guy. But it's just tricky because for a team that wants to be a top 15 team and has Big Ten title aspirations, this group is maybe at least a reason to possibly sound the alarm. So, fans, here's my challenge. When you watch this offense against Western Illinois on Friday, I'm going to be talking about this on the preview episode. Don't just look at that final score. Let's find out who Luke Altmaier trusts. Let's find out who's getting the separation. Let's watch who plays like a playmaker and who looks like just another guy in the rotation. Because if this wide receiver room doesn't produce, Illinois' ceiling gets quite limited quick. I've said this before, Justin Bullock, he's my guy. He's my flag player for this upcoming season. I hope he's going to surprise people. I want to hear your guys' opinion. Let me know of all these wide receivers, who do you think is going to end up being wide receiver one? When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a last-minute project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHColleges for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And welcome back. We here at Locked On have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like and what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered to win a chance of one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you all so much for helping out. I know this is kind of old news now, but obviously over the weekend, Mahalo Petroviç showed that he's officially on campus with the Illini, which is great news all around. It's funny, obviously, I released that episode that I recorded last week with Locked On College Basketball for Monday's episode. And when Mahalo finally committed, again, this is why I love this community so much. I got so many DMs and so many emails saying, hey, did you see? Mahalo's finally on campus. I'll say it again. This is a huge deal. And I'll say it again. There's a reason that all summer long, I've kind of dropped hints that, it was just kind of a matter of time. Obviously, Brad, when asked, he has to be vague and say he doesn't know when Mahalo is going to get on campus. And he's being truthful with that. Those aren't just empty words. You just never know with these sort of processes. But every time I checked in with anybody on the basketball side for the past month and a half or so, I was told, not too big of a concern. It's just you have to wait it out. I did have concerns that the longer you wait, the less amount of practice that you're going to have Mahalo have with his new teammates. And that's an absolute concern, especially if Petrović is as good as I think he is. I genuinely think that Petrović has the potential to be maybe the second best player, second most important player on this team, only behind Andrej Stojakovic. Petrović is a kid who I think is going to be the point guard that this team needs. He's going to be the point guard this team needed the last two seasons. And I'm not hating on Kasparis in any sort of way. Kasparis was obviously a top 20 pick in the NBA draft. And, I'm not going to join the chorus of recent KJ haters because of his performance at the second half of last year, because I recognize how good he was in the first half of last season. But I think Mahalo, as a 22-year-old, who, let's get the jokes out, looks like he's a 32-year-old. I genuinely do think that Mahalo, as a 22-year-old point guard in the Big Ten next year, could be more impactful than what Kasparis was the year prior. And keep in mind, Kasparis was a kid who was at one point being talked about as a potential All-American. And I believe he finished second or third when it comes to all Big Ten. Now, Mahalo may not reach those just because the Big Ten in particular with point guards this year is so incredibly loaded. But I've been saying, my everydayers in here know. There's no secret when I do my Flag Guys episode for basketball who it's going to be, because I really, really like Petrovic's game. And most importantly, I really do think that he's going to be the guy at the end of games with the basketball in his hand. Now, granted, he showed he can be clutch against older players who maybe aren't quite as good in the European League he was at. But I think you either have it mentality or you don't have that mentality. And I think Mahalo absolutely does. And I think him and Kylan as a backcourt is a perfect pairing, because Kylan, I think, is a guy you can let play point guard for 25, 30% of the time. But he's just better if you don't make him the primary playmaker. Whereas I think Petrović is a primary playmaker. And he put up numbers that, made him finish in the top 10 in the MVP race in the league that he played in last year. Now he's going to be surrounded by guys who, hypothetically, of course, can all shoot and all make baskets. And I really think that Mahalo being here and now really getting the whole team together and being able to practice together is a huge deal. And I've said it before, Mahalo, I said this on Locked On College Basketball, Mahalo is good enough to make Illinois the second best team in the Big Ten Conference next year. And quite honestly, if I was making my predictions right now, that's exactly where I'd have them. Place number 2. Obviously you have to give credit to Matt Painter and the Purdue Boilermakers with all that talent they're bringing back. I think they're clear-cut number 1. But whereas I've seen Illinois ranked anywhere from 3, 4, 5 in a lot of preseason rankings, I don't think these people understand how good Petrović is. And let's be honest, from my opening segment of today's episode, if Keaton Wagler is as good as he is, there's not a lot of college basketball teams in the country that can match up a rotation of guards like Illinois can, between Kylan Boswell, Mahalo Petrović, and maybe, hopefully, Keaton Wagler. So that's something to keep an eye on. I do appreciate you guys all reaching out to me to see if I saw the news. Again, this is why I love the Locked On community so much. You can always reach out to me. Send me an email at talkillini@gmail.com. You can find me on all your favorite social medias. You can find me at Locked On Illini or Talk Illini. It's a new project I'm working on. Please reach out to me. I love having these daily conversations with all of you. That's going to just about wrap it up for this edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's all I have for you today. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.